Rolex on your wrist, a plain Jane.
Take a look at what a black male teacher who was a Kevin Samuels follower had to say about dark-skinned black women. He says, turn the lights off and dark-skinned girls scatter like roaches. He also goes on to say dark-skinned females squirt motor oil when they get pregnant. Those are just two of the many colorist remarks he's made that we're going to get into, along with his response and what his employer had to say. What up and welcome back. It's your girl Jane, the plainest Jane, and we got some syrup to get into. Those two tweets are just the beginning of Dr. Troy Yarbrough spewing venom towards dark-skinned black women. And if this is how he feels outside of the classroom, what makes you think he feels any different when he walks inside the classroom Monday through Friday? Of course, he can't rewire himself to feel differently in the classroom and suddenly unhate dark-skinned black women and girls. And despite this being a blatant violation of any learning institution's social media policy, the obvious inability to unhate certain black women every day at 7:45 a.m. means he's carrying these thoughts and beliefs with him inside of the classroom in what one would assume to be a less overt and a more subtle fashion. But it really doesn't matter how much he tones down his prejudice towards dark-skinned women and girls. These are dangerous subtleties that none of our children should be exposed to. Let's get into the rest of what this teacher had to say, this so-called doctor. But first, make sure y'all hit thumbs up on this video and don't forget to subscribe for more breaking black news and celebrity updates. Dr. Troy Yarbrough was an educator for 8 years in Mississippi and Tennessee, and these self-incriminating posts have since been deleted, and they've caused Dr. Troy to lose his teaching job and issue an apology. Despite the fact that Dr. Troy Yarbrough snatched the post down after he caught some heat, you know nothing is ever truly deleted on the internet. So let's get into these receipts and this breakdown. And although some of these tweets are almost 10 years old, it still is very telling of your present day character when it comes to prejudice based on color if you've never addressed these sentiments, which Dr. Troy never has until now, but only when he felt he was facing some repercussions for his actions. So let's get into these tweets. He says, white women are slowly starting to grow black women asses. If this trend continues, some of y'all darkies are gonna be left out. He continues with, also dark-skinned girls with blonde hair remind me of Duracell batteries. He says, someone said dark-skinned girls with blonde hair be looking like Black and Milds though. He says also, I don't like going to clubs that's got all black folks. I like a little diversity, and plus drunk white girls will suck you up in the bathroom, with several laughing emojis. It seems that he has a really good time beating up on black women and being condescending towards black women. And this is what we call colorism, especially to be a black man with nappy hair himself. There's obviously some self-hate here, and this is a man who's actually married with kids, and he brings this up himself as he responds to the backlash and the scrutiny.
Rolex on your wrist, a plain Jane.
This type of disgusting behavior and vile bias is not a switch that you can turn on and off just to go work your 9-to-5 job. The possibilities are endless as to how this behavior and this thought process can be seeping out in the classroom to the young impressionable mindset. He has the authority to indoctrinate. What is he doing potentially in the classroom? He could be potentially turning a blind eye to dark-skinned black girls, them getting bullied. He could be potentially helping to brew and facilitate harm en masse. It's beyond dangerous for a person like this to have access to young, fragile, impressionable minds, and especially dark-skinned black girls, since he clearly has a deep disdain and hatred towards them. These tweets reveal his true thoughts and feelings towards dark-skinned black women and girls, and although it was almost 10 years ago, as with any form of discrimination, and especially when we're talking about color prejudice, because if this was a white teacher talking about black students, the responses would be outrage across the board. But as with any form of color discrimination, is it just erased and forgiven with time? No, it is not. Avoiding to address and correct these problematic and discriminatory statements does not absolve you of accountability. And especially because there's been no real road for redemption or attempt to make it right. He has not displayed behavior or proven that his disgusting discriminatory stance has changed. He's never had a come to Jesus moment to express remorse or regret, and he's only addressed it now because the heat of social media resulted in his termination. He's sorry he got fired. He's not truly sorry for what he's done. Otherwise, he would have said something sooner without having to be prompted to do so. So this is something where Black women really came together and activated. This was really a united moment, and a lot of people aren't talking about it outside of the app, but this is something that blew up on Twitter. So Black women came together and collectively informed his employer on Twitter by tagging them and really just breaking down what had happened. And they responded, and then he responded, and then his employer responded again. So here's what his employer had to say on February 7th at 9:22 a.m. They say, "We are aware of concerns involving the public school system's values and diversity and inclusion, and we strive to foster a safe and equitable environment in all that we do. Thank you all for voicing your concerns and for your patience as we do our due diligence to investigate the matter." Now, mind you, this is May the 7th at 9:22 a.m. So later on that day, 12/17, still May 7th, he comes out with an apology that we were able to snag from his LinkedIn. It says, "I would like to publicly and sincerely apologize for the hurtful comments that were made by me in the past. I've said hurtful things amongst friends on Twitter that I thought were jokes, but I understand that these comments were not acceptable then and are not acceptable now. I was 21 to 22 years old when I made these immature comments. I'm now a 33-year-old husband and father. I have grown. I believe that everyone deserves room to grow too. I also believe that everyone deserves respect, and in those moments, I was not respectful. I own that I made mistakes and I've learned from these mistakes. These comments do not reflect my views or those of my employer. That's not the person I am, and I sincerely apologize to those I've hurt." And so it took a little bit of time, but 3 days later, his employer did respond on Twitter publicly. Who knows what the personal correspondence between him and the company could have been? But it says on May 10th at 1:36 p.m., "Our pursuit of education equity for all children depends on centering racial equity, diversity, and inclusiveness in everything we do. We learned of troubling social media posts on an account connected to a staff member who is now no longer employed by Teach for America." So this was a special education teacher, okay? And really a Black male teacher who went and got enough education to place doctor in front of his name, who is prejudiced against dark-skinned Black women, doesn't deserve to have doctor in front of his name, let alone teach or advise other humans about how to apply anything in life. This so-called doctor is sick and he's suffering from self-hate, and I think it's best that he was booted out of the classroom. All of this information surfaced around about May 5th. So the fact that the school was responding on the 7th, he then responded on the 7th, and by the 10th, a decision was already made to go ahead and sever ties. Listen, Black women coming together, we are to thank for that. But, you know, this just goes to show that Kevin Samuels and his followers don't believe Black babies deserve protection against misogyny.
How do you think you can make your asset how do you think you can make your child an asset to the kind of man you want to marry?
How can I make my child asset?
To the kind of man you would want to marry? No, the question is how to make your child an asset to that man.
Sexual abuse.
Let's say you and I were to get married. You got a daughter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say we have 2 kids together.
Mm-hmm.
And your child is 5. So 10 years from now, your daughter comes home and says, Kevin touched me, looked at me getting out of the shower. What happens next?
The relationship would have to end.
Huh?
That's not something the relationship would end immediately.
Because your daughter said I looked at her getting out of the shower. Kevin touched me, looked at me getting out of the shower. Kevin touched me, looked at me getting out of the shower. Why would you not question your child? Why would you not question your daughter? Why would you not just say, girl, whatever, that's your daddy. Girl, whatever, that's your daddy. Yeah, children lie. Are you kidding me? Children lie. Children lie.
Or colorism. And listen, Colorism is very similar to racism. They are not the same. They are similar, but they're both a sick, oppressive bias in a metaphorical hat that cannot be taken off or removed so that you can sit it to the side and then place your work hat on. That's not how color discrimination works. And especially when you work with the general public that exposes you to a wide variety of different people from all different walks of life. And I say all that to say, if you think his bias is not seeping out in that classroom and somehow spreading to students that he has access to on a daily basis and has the authority to teach and to mold and infuse their minds with what he believes to be right, seek help. Teachers teach what they believe, and subconsciously they teach what they do. You know, the figure of speech, do as I say and not as I do, came into existence because by default, regardless of what you're saying, people are going to follow more of what you do more than what you say. So if you live your life outside of the classroom disliking and disrespecting Black women, there is no kill switch for you to suddenly turn it off for your 9 to 5 or whatever shift it is that you work. And it's also dangerous even if he wasn't to come in contact with beautiful, young, dark-skinned babies, because the possibility of him teaching other students to treat them less than, to tell condescending jokes about, or to hold the same prejudice against dark-skinned Black girls as he does, that's not a possibility any of our children should be exposed to.
Rolex on your wrist, a plain Jane.
But as always, I want to hear from y'all down below in the comments. Make sure you keep it sticky and real. Do you feel like the termination was enough? Do you feel like it was too much? Do you feel like, yes, it warrants for you to be terminated if you are teaching and you hold a color bias, if you haven't done anything to redeem yourself and there's nothing to show for your redemption outside of time passed with vile, disgusting prejudice against dark-skinned Black women and girls? How are we to know that you changed? Do you agree with that sentiment? Do you not agree with that sentiment? Any of our thoughts, I want to hear from you down below based on everything that we covered in this video, uncovering these tweets. Y'all make sure to stay beautiful, Black, and blessed until the next time. And don't forget to hit thumbs up on the video and subscribe for more breaking Black news and celebrity updates.
Rolex on your wrist, a plain Jane.
But that's it. If you want to catch more of my commentary on Black culture or vital and trending information, be sure to subscribe by hitting that little circle in the middle of the screen, or I'll catch you in one of these rectangles to the right in another video. I'll see you there.